Hi, my name is Matt Hendrickson. I'm a Vice President with DO USA. It's my pleasure to welcome you today to our DDA session. DDA stands for the DO Digital Academy, and we offer the DDA in two different versions. A basic version where we walk you through actually placing an implant step by step as you optionally follow along on a Typodont that we can send you if you desire, or you can just watch us go through the steps step by step, and we handle all of the basic coverage and detail of the DO Navi surgical kits, the protocols, and every step that's required to go through and place an implant using the Typodont as an example. The advanced session of the DDA, we're going to actually walk you through an actual surgery on a live patient. Today's course will be going through the DDA basic session, or again, we'll be doing the DDA training on an actual Typodont. Some of you may have that Typodont with you, in which case the idea is that you actually follow along and go through all of the same steps that we're doing as we place the implants on the Typodont. If you don't have a Typodont and you're interested in getting the DDA Typodont, get in touch with us and we can actually get one of those for you. If you don't have the Typodont, you're still going to get a lot out of today's course, so I think you'll enjoy this as we go through this. To give you a little bit of background on what DO Navi is, DO Navi is a world-class, literally the best in the world in my opinion, guided implant system that's going to walk you through surgical placements, unlike any other guided system on the market. It's very unique because the planning is so simple and streamlined that it makes it very easy for you to upload your cases to our DO Navi planners, where we can then plan the surgical case for you. We send that case back to you and you approve it or ask us to make any modifications. And then once the case is approved, we literally send you what we refer to as a case in a box. And that case in a box is then going to have everything that you need to perform that implant placement. Even possibly right down to the implant fixture itself that are appropriate for that plan. But in that box will be the implant guide that will go in the patient's mouth, as I mentioned, the implants themselves, possibly a custom abutment if appropriate, or the appropriate anatomical abutments. It will also include a drilling protocol that will walk you through step by step as you go through and place that implant. And even if appropriate, it'll include a screw-retained temporary crown, so you have everything start to finish all in one spot. It's very unique. The DO Navi system is built using the DO implant fixtures, which is a world-class implant manufacturer, providing the absolute best in implants and its other associated attachments. Also, DO offers some really unique cutting-edge technologies, such as their UV activator, which is actually a chair-side UV activation system to absolutely provide the ultimate in hydrophilosity of the implant and maximize the speed that that implant integrates and is ready to restore. The DO Navi system also streamlines everything that you do to the point where literally almost everything that you do is placed through the guide. So as you'll see as we go through this as well, there's very little need to remove the guide and replace the guide during surgery. Again, the end result is absolutely the ultimate in predictability, simplicity, speed, comfort for the patient, and clinical outcomes. We have a lot of people who attend these DDA sessions live, so because of that, if you're attending live, your microphone is muted. You will have the ability to text questions into the moderator. So take advantage of the questions, chat, submit those, and we will at the end come back and do a Q&A session where we cover those questions for you. So with that said, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. You're really lucky to have a phenomenal lecturer who's going to be teaching this course, Dr. Riley Clark. Dr. Clark is a graduate from Case Western Reserve with a DMD degree. He's an implant-only dentist. He also holds certificates in IV sedation. He's a clinical mentor and lecturer and fellow at the Whitecap Institute, which is a world-renowned implant training facility in Utah. He's adjunct faculty at the University of Utah School of Dentistry. He has a master in implant prosthetics, and he's a board-certified diplomate of the International Congress of Oral Implantologists. But most importantly, Dr. Clark is the go-to expert when it comes to guided implant surgery. Dr. Clark has experience with just about every guided implant system out there on the market. In fact, he's consulted with many of the guided implant companies. He does use the DO Navi system on a regular basis every day, so you really have a great opportunity, and it's going to be a real treat for you to have such an expert walk you through these DDA sessions today.
Thanks for that introduction, Matt. I'm excited that you're able to join us for this DDA session. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So first topic, DO Navi technology introduction and clinical value. I'm excited to talk about this with you as I've had a lot of experience working with other dental implant companies, dental implant guide companies, different laboratories, and I've seen what's out there, which makes what I'm about to share with you even more meaningful to me and in my practice, because it really is a level above the competition. Let's go ahead and get started. I want to play this quick little video for you to get started, okay? Here's a fun little video. I'd like to go through it and highlight some of these technology pieces that really sets DeoNavi apart. So here you're seeing an edentulous spot in the mandible. We're always going to start with a prosthetic tooth first. So a tooth is going to be placed in the virtual world, and we're going to make sure it is in the ideal geometry to match the final restoration. From there, the implant is designed with respect to the anatomical structures around that area. And then, of course, complementing the prosthetic plan of the tooth. Here you're seeing the use of a special abutment called an anatomical abutment. That's going to be key in some of the workflows of the DeoNavi system. So here's the process, the implant coming right off the 3D printer. This 3D printer is specifically designed from DeoNavi to seamlessly work within their workflow. Their implant surface, the most contemporary implant surface on the market. And now you're going to see that implant be supercharged, so to speak, with the chair-side UV activation process. This is going to enable the implant to be even more hydrophilic, lending itself to faster healing time and a stronger implant at the end of the day. Here's the anatomical abutment you're seeing, custom fit for each area based on analysis of hundreds and hundreds of formerly made custom abutments. Now you're going to see the many clinical situations that the DeoNavi system is complementary to. Anywhere from edentulous areas, anterior aesthetic cases, posterior sinus cases, you name it, DeoNavi has a great solution for it. All right, moving on, I'd like to focus in now on that UV activation for a little bit. Through this process of UV activation, the dental implant surface is removed of debris or hydrocarbons that can build up on the surface of the implant, producing a more hydrophilic implant. That's what you're seeing right here, is that process through UV activation, creating a more pure, activated surface of the implant. Here you're seeing a competition test, if you will, between two other hydrophilic implant surfaces and the Deo UV surface. Amazing to see that hydrophilic property with a chair side activation. Really, really impressive. That UV implant I'm seeing routinely placed, and 4 to 6 weeks later, ISQ readings well above 70. That's really, really exciting to offer that to our patients. They no longer have to wait as long as they've been used to, and then we can get to the restorative procedures even sooner. It's a win-win for everyone. This really is a unique thing about DeoNavi. Their guides fit remarkable. Like I said, I had worked with lots and lots of different implant companies, different guide companies and labs, and I've never seen a guide fit with the precision and the accuracy of the DeoNavi system. It's a wonderful fitting guide to see it perfectly marry itself with the anatomical structure of our clinical crowns or our soft tissue guides. It's a very, very well-fitting guide. End of the day, we can thoughtfully plan our implants, we can tweak it all we want in the virtual world, but if that physical guide does not seat properly with precision, all of that thoughtful planning in the virtual world will not translate to any type of clinical benefit. And so I really appreciate a wonderful fitting guide, really, really important to a final outcome that we're really proud of. Another unique thing with DO Navi, when they send my surgical reports with me, I get a structure map just like this that shows me how dense the bone is going to be around the body of my implant. If I'm preparing for my drilling protocol, whether I want to undersize the osteotomy or make it a true size, if I'm considering primary stability for immediate loading, a topography map like this helps me understand what type of density we're going to be experiencing while drilling. So through a Hounsfield unit measurement in the software, we can go before surgery even happens and make some clinical plans based on what the bone density is going to be like. I appreciate that extra boost of confidence to understand what the situation is going to look like clinically. As you know, bone quality makes such a difference in our implant cases when we talk about loading, primary stability. This takes a little bit of the mystique off of that analysis of what is it going to be like. Another thing I really like with DO Navi is their drilling protocols. They'll show up on a sheet just like this, and this sheet just makes it seamless and easy to understand what the protocol is. Not in words, but in pictures. Anyone can read it, anyone can understand it. It makes it even easier for me as a clinician to be there and to see exactly what the drilling protocol is going to look like. As you can see at the bottom, there's a D3 step where you would end after density 3, and then there's a D2 or D1 step giving you some insight to what you might undersize your osteotomy as in preparation for primary stability. I like this. It's thoughtful, it's clever, it's streamlined, it's easy, it's convenient. That might be a theme of just what the DO Navi system is, and this little picture form of their drilling protocol kind of epitomizes that exactness of what DO Navi can do for you. Makes it easy and simple for you, so you don't need to think any harder than you have to. Last thing I want to mention when we talk about this is this anatomical abutment. These anatomical abutments, again, are designed from analyzing hundreds and hundreds of custom abutments, and they came up with some unique geometries, and those geometries are very complementary to soft tissue contours in the mouth. So you don't need to pay the price for a big old custom abutment, but you still get the benefit of an anatomical abutment that can go in, be very thoughtfully crafted relative to the soft tissues, could theoretically stay in the mouth the entire time, never needing to be removed, because it also doubles as a scan body. So this can be scanned in the mouth, and then from that impression, a final prosthetic can be planned. I appreciate the thoughtfulness with soft tissue. Soft tissue, we know that if we can put an abutment in early and leave it undisrupted, then with that, we will have a long-term soft tissue connection around these titanium surfaces. And so I love the idea of an anatomical abutment going in the day of surgery, staying in because it does not need to be removed for impression taking, and then being our final abutment if that's what you choose. It's a really clever abutment. It's a little more economical. It's very thoughtful to soft tissue. I think it's a very, very clever idea. They come in a variety of sizes, as I mentioned. You're seeing some of the size options right there. Based on anatomy, based on size and shape of the surrounding teeth and tissues, you'd select the right one from that. It's all done in the digital world, though, for you. So in the digital world, they can measure, look at that, hand select the right one for you. Just a couple of more slides I have here. This is a really cool case I did just a couple of weeks ago. What I love with this slide here is it really highlights, in essence, what the DO Navi system does for me, for my practice, and my patients. This patient came in under 15 minutes. All of those implants went in with the guide, with surgical precision. The patient left thinking, have we even started? I love a system that lets the patient feel like they're a king or queen. I love a system that lets me as the clinician feel like I'm doing a great job for my patient, saving time, saving stress, and to get 3 implants just like that, parallel, thoughtfully planned, relative to our prosthetics in a way that is efficient, good use of time, everyone is winning. My patients appreciate it, my clinic appreciates it, I certainly appreciate it as the clinician. I think that tells a big story right there. So when we talk about this technology and how does it really benefit us as providers, I think that X-ray tells the whole story right there. Maybe one last little thought. What I love also with DO Navi, it's this idea of a case in a box. And so one case gets sent to me, I open it up, it has my implants, my guides, my healing abutment, or my custom abutment, or my anatomical abutment, with a prosthetic crown, with my drilling protocol, all in one box. In terms of organizing our implant cases, coordinating with this lab or this manufacturer, this really streamlines it. There's only one place, DO Navi. I talk to them and they get the whole thing from A to Z figured out for me, and it just makes it a lot easier for organizing our cases. I really appreciate what the case in the box can do. And so those are some of the things that I think are highlights of the DO Navi system, how the technology benefits you, me, and the patient. I hope you enjoyed that. Let's keep moving forward. Now I'd like to introduce the DO Navi Narrow Kit. This is the kit that you will use to place the narrow platform implant, which again is the 3.0 and 3.3 diameter implant. Let's go ahead and take a look. You're going to open it up. It's going to have this little carton that holds it in here. You'll flip these two edges up and then push the other side and it will slide right out. We will remove the plastic covering and then again lift on the sides and the cassette opens right up. This again is called the narrow surgical kit. This is used for the narrow platform implant. Similar to the other kits, the lower left is intended for your piloting phases, widening your osteotomy. There are again profile drills at the very top. And then on the far right, we have screwdrivers, we have the connector extension and the implant connectors, and then again your abutment profile. So very similar to your DO Navi Master Kit, just fewer drills, and they're in a little different position, but similar components because it's going to do the same job. It's going to help you place the implant, just a smaller diameter size. And so if you'll notice, the drill diameters are a lot skinnier to correspond with the skinnier diameter implants that they're intended to place. If you lift this and move it, you again have a surgical component dish, and then you have your torque wrench as well. That is the DO Navi Narrow Kit. Okay, welcome to this next DDA session where we're going to be placing a couple of implants, placing custom abutments, and then putting a temporary on them. Really exciting workflow here. You're going to get to see the accuracy of the guide and the neat synergy, if you will, of the surgical world and the prosthetic world. So really neat workflow here that is such a service to our patients. I'm excited to introduce this to you. In your DDA box, this is case number 3. You should obviously have an implant motor, a handpiece. You're going to need the narrow kit. And then inside case 3, you should have a surgical guide, 2 implants, a little bag that has the bridge and some seating jigs, as well as your Typodont. Don't forget, lastly, you do need your little component box here. And number 8 and 9 are the 2 areas we're going to be stealing some abutments out of for the prosthetic phase of this simulation, okay? I am on case 3 on my drilling protocol sheet, and we're going to be following that protocol, placing 2 implants and then doing some prosthetics. Luckily, both of these implants are the exact same size, so when that guide goes on, we get to drill one and then jump right to the next one and drill the next. So that's really efficient for us. Like any case, the first thing we want to do is seat the guide and make sure you're comfortable with the seat. Pushing tactily will tell you if there's any rocking or movement. And then visually, you can inspect the distal areas and these little cutout windows and make sure it's seated properly. This DDA box is kind of mass produced. They fit good. I will say that the guides fit even better in a real patient, but this is good. So if you see small little areas, this is good enough for our simulation today. I just highlight that just so you don't think that's what all the other guides should fit like. But this fits pretty good, pretty stable as I push around. I'm going to flip the Typodont around, so number 8's over here, number 10 is over here for me, okay? My drilling protocol, these are 3.3 by 11.5 implants. Primary stability is very important for me. So as I'm looking at the protocol, I've got to decide where do I want to stop, D3, D2, or D1. I'm likely in a real patient scenario to be very thoughtful that I don't oversize the osteotomy, then stealing away my primary stability. Because if I don't have stability, I can't do the temps. My guess is today we're probably going to drill to like a D2 just to help this be a little bit more real. I don't think a D1 drilling protocol in the anterior maxilla is really realistic, okay? So with that said, let's get rocking and rolling. I'm going to grab my tissue punch. I'm at 100 RPMs, 55 Newton centimeters of torque per the recommendations on the protocol here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to push hard. I'm going to wiggle around, push hard, come out, and the tissue's even caught in my drill. That looks perfect. I'm going to do the same over here. I'm going to push hard, wiggle, push hard, come out, even more tissue stuck in there. I'm going to take this off just for the heck of it, and you're going to see beautiful tissue punches. The tissue punch in the DO Navi kit has a radius blade, I call it, which goes and planes the bone, not just a hole saw type cut, but there's actually a blade that's going around the radius, and it's actually peeling the tissue off the bone. Most other systems I've used, you tissue punch, remove the guide, and then you have to hand scrape it off, not with this system. So I'm glad that worked out well. Nice clean cuts right there. Now we're going to use the bone flattening drill. And if you recall, these black lines indicate exactly where we stop. So if you look at your drilling protocol, it will show you that you drill to the bottom, meaning the more apical part of that black line. So we're going to go ahead and drop this. You see that I'm a millimeter or two short. I'm going to run it until that black line is flush right about there. We're going to come out. In a real patient, irrigation would be done. We're not doing that on our Typodont today. I'm going to go over, do the same thing on this site. Perfect. Now we've created a nice flat surface so these next drills don't have any tendency to slide or slip down some different uneven topography. We're going to put our drill tube in. Just like that. And then it calls for a 2x7. So here's my 2 millimeter diameter, 7 length. I'm going to hold the guide. If you notice, the tube comes up a little bit just because that tissue is a little bit bouncy, if you will. And I'm going to push this all the way to bone, and then I'm going to run the drill, solid push, and out. Again, irrigation would take place. Because that tube is in place, I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm going to do my 11.5 drill as opposed to taking it out using the next one. Taking these out can take a second. Now the 11.5 drill, beautiful. Irrigation would happen. I take this out, set it in the other side, and I repeat those steps. Again, just following the drilling protocol here. So 2x7. Beautiful. And then 2x11.5. That will come out. And now we're ready to go to the tubeless drills. And we're going to start with a 2.5x7. And again, I can bounce from one to the other. I don't need to remove the drill. So there's that one, and then you jump right into the next one. And then we're going to do the same thing with the 11.5 length. Now, if you felt like this was very, very soft bone, you're done drilling. It's time to use the abutment profile. That would be important in this scenario because we have custom abutments. We don't want anything in our way, and this will remove any interferences. I'm thinking I'm going to drill one more drill following the D2 protocol. So I'm going to use the 2.7x11.5, and I'm going to call it quits for my drilling. If you hear squeaking like that, I'm probably trying to pull the drill a different position to where the guide wants it. That one, yeah, I wasn't sure if it got all the way down to depth there. Now, this again is the abutment profile drill, an important step because we're getting ready to see abutments after the implants go in. and I can't have anything holding up the seat of the abutment. That's very frustrating to deal with. So you're going to push this down to depth, and then we're going to run this around the merry-go-round 3 or 4 times. Beautiful. Down. Run that around. And now we're ready to place implants. I don't do this with the patient, but I'm going to get some of that dust out of there. And now we're ready to do our implants. So I'm going to change my speed to our slower speed for implant placement. I'm going to put it in my implant connector. And I have my 2 implants ready to go right here. So we're going to put 2 fingers on the side, grab the top, lift it, remove the little cover over the implant. And then to do this, you need to line up the hex, kind of rotate. You feel it drop in, and then lift it without the edges of the implant grabbing the side of the container, which will kind of pull the implant off. So now, time to place our implant. I'm going to place this down. We're going to go ahead and run the pedal. We got a ways to go here, it appears. It's starting to act like it's really tight. This is the beauty of working on Typodonts versus real human bone. I'm kind of hand pumping it. It's basically bottomed out. Now it's time to drive the implant to its final depth. So I'm going to grab my torque wrench to do that and do it by hand. Now, as we talked about in previous sessions, there's a timing or a rotational indicator on the guide system. Because a custom abutment has been designed and it told us where the hex has to be based in the virtual software, this has to match that. It's really important. And so there are different little tabs or wings, 3 of them, on this implant connector, and they have to line up with the tabs on the surgical guide sleeve. So I'll zoom in here and try to help you see this. I've got a ways to go. I'm not close to that black line yet. I'm coming up on the black line, and so now I want that black tab to line up perfectly with the little tab on the surgical guide sleeve. And I think I've done it. So I like that, knowing that the rotation of the implant is going to match the hex of the abutment. As a review, this is what I'm referring to. The driver has these little indicators, and the sleeve has these indicators. They need to be lined up appropriately to know exactly where the actual hex orientation belongs so the prosthetics will fit. That's a really important step on cases like this. So with that done, I need to remove this. This is a little tight in there. You could tell because it was squeaking. I have to remove the guide to do that. In the mouth, I don't have a rongier because I don't have a tray set up here, but I typically would just grab like a rongier and just pull it out. But in that case, I removed the whole guide. I've got my next implant ready. I got to put the driver back in. Struggling to find the hex. There it goes. So I've got one more implant to put in. Lots of friction here, as you can tell. So now it's time to do the exact same thing. We're going to hand torque it down. It actually doesn't feel that tight. There's just a lot of kind of squeaking here. And again, I'm getting close to the final spot. Got to go a little more. So here comes the black indicator. And I'm going to line it up. That looks perfect to the gold wing or tab on the surgical guide sleeve. So I believe the rotation is now perfect on both of these. I'm going to go ahead and remove these. If you were worried that you had excessive torque on these, you could always double check right now, because again, torque values with the guide in place I think are a little bit excessive, meaning they're false, because there's so much tension between the drivers and the actual surgical guide. So surgery part is done. Now we get to switch to prosthetics. And so I'm going to set the guide over there. I'm going to set up some of the prosthetic things that we need. If I open up this little bag here, it has the temporary teeth and seating jigs for me. So the seating jig has a little wing on it, and that little wing matches the contour of the adjacent tooth. So I can put in my 2 abutments, put the screws in, set it here, and it's going to match the contour of that number 11, beautiful, so that I know I'm screwing these in at the same position. They also have a single one if I wanted to do 1 and then do 1, but I'm going to do both at the same time. But you could put 1 in here and then hold this and it matches that abutment and does the other. That's a more simple way of doing it. You're only dealing with 1 abutment, but I feel like I can do both at the same time. So we're going to try that. So I'm going to set that aside, and then this is the future temporary that should fit on those nicely. So here's what I'm going to do. I got to make sure I understand which tooth is which, obviously. We got number 8 here, and we've got number 10 there. So I'm going to open up number 8. I'm going to dump out the abutment and screw here, and I'm going to put the screw in the abutment. And then this should fit. I got to find the right rotation, so I'm going to rotate it. I think I've got it completely opposite. There it goes. So if you can see now, whoops, the marginal fit should indicate how beautiful this is fitting. So that looks really nice. So now let's do the same with number 10. I'm going to try to be careful that doesn't fall out again. This part's probably the more stressful part, just because these little parts and pieces can be tedious to work with. So now I'm going to put this one in. Okay, good. And then I got screws in there, so I got to be careful. I don't want the screws to come out. So I like what I have there. We're going to take this. I wish you could move the patient this way. In the patient, you have to be careful and kind of push it in, but I'm going to kind of cheat with the Typodont here, and I'm going to seat that a little bit. And I'm going to hold that in place and look at the contour, and that is being held up against the number 11 tooth. I'm then going to grab my screwdriver here, and I'm going to push this down in the screw, and I'm going to tighten that by hand. I'm just tightening it a little bit, then I'm going to go to the other one. That screw came out. I just found it. There it is. That must have come out when it dropped the first time. So I got to put that screw in there. That makes it easier to tighten it if the screw's in there. Okay, and I'm just going to hand tighten this. Go back to the other one. Little hand tighten. I like that. And then I'm going to confirm that they seem to just look like they're in the right spot. And they do look pretty good. You can always try in the temp and make sure, and that looks pretty accurate to me. I'm now going to go and put this back on, and I'm going to actually torque down these abutments. If you try to torque the abutment without this on, they might rotate on you because the implant isn't healed yet. I'm going to torque these to 20 Newton centimeters. So that's 20 there. I'm going to torque this one to 20. That's down. And now everything should be seated just perfect. And we'll try this in one more time. And that looks pretty good. This little model here, I've done this a few times. That contact is a little open there just because it's mass produced. But that contact is spot on. It looks pretty good. Again, the main point of this exercise is to see kind of the stepwise process to do this. But that looks good. If I'm being picky about the design, these abutments were designed to be equigingival. I think that's a mistake. I think the abutment should always be 1.5 millimeters subgingival on an immediate placement like this. But the fact that this fits passively over 2 abutments, 2 implants that were just placed, that's pretty remarkable. The design has a little issue with that open contact, but again, that was a design issue. Not I would say an accuracy issue, and you know that because this contact is fitting beautiful. This contact should be way over contoured if that one's open. But again, you're seeing 2 implants placed, you're seeing a temporary go in that fits passively that looks pretty decent. I think there's a few design things that could be optimized. But It's that easy, it's that slick. I would say some of the bigger things to be aware of is how important the use is of the abutment profile drill. That abutment profile drill allows the abutment to seat gracefully without being hung up on any bone or soft tissue. And then the other thing is just making sure you drill with every drill in the guide. Don't skip one thinking, oh, it's redundant, because you won't enjoy the accuracy of a passive fit on a 3-unit bridge like this. So that's a really good simulation. That's it for case number 3. Let me show you what that looks like on a real case. So just a couple of little clinical cases, just real simple stuff, just so you see it kind of in the mouth. So there's a surgical guide in place. I tissue punch. You see the tissue in the actual little window here. That's a good indication that you grab the tissue. I like that. Here's the bone flattening drill being used. Here's that tube going in that I talked to you about. And then here is that long drill, and you're pushing it all the way to the end every time. So that's the way that's going to work. So that's going to go all the way down there, all the way flush. You cannot push that too deep. And again, this is a narrow case, so this is just like the one you saw. Here is the tubeless, meaning the tube is built into the drill, and you see that pushed all the way to depth. Here's a profile drill. Their profile drill, this particular one does have a little depth stop on this one. Oh, that's just your tubeless initial drill. Here's the implant going in. And then this is the magic. You have to make sure this is seated properly, and you can see the abutments in the right way. You're going to use the adjacent contouring teeth, and then your temporary goes in. Shade I thought was decent for a temporary, that same day. But that surgery start to finish, I mean, that's a 15-minute procedure to put the implant in, the abutment, and the temporary. Here's another one. That's broken off at the gum line, number 27. Take the tooth out, put the guide on, put the tube in, drill some more, ready for the implant. Implant goes in. I use my abutment jig to seat the abutment in. There's my abutment in place, about 1 millimeter under the gingiva. And then there's my tooth. Shade is a little bit more white than I would have wanted, but I love how it fills the space. I love how it's going to maintain the periodontium. That's a simple procedure to do. The hardest part of that is getting the tooth out, and that's manageable. We all know how to do that. I'm not bragging about efficiency of time here, but this particular case was 8 minutes, start to finish. And to get a result like that in a predictable fashion, in a very timely manner, that's what this is all about. And so when we talk about these protocols, we talk about the components to this, it is a little bit more work than freehand. It is maybe a little bit different than what you have been doing, but look at those results. In less than 10 minutes of time, patients in and out, and faster than you can even do an exam or clinical photos, and they had their surgery done, and it was the fastest appointment of their entire visit in my office so far. That's a 5x10 right under the sinus, and that's a 4x13 on the other side. But those results are awesome, and I just thought I would take a couple of pictures and show you the power of what these kits can do, and the accuracy, the stress-free nature, the time-saving nature of it all. It's really, really exciting. Thank you for attending our online DDA Typodont series. I hope this was helpful for you to get comfortable with the DeoNavi workflow, get to know their kits and their protocols. If you want more education, tire meets the road, practical, clinical implantology, come see us at Whitecap Institute. This is what we do all day long. If you like our teaching style, if you want to learn more and get more comfortable with implantology, we'd love to help be part of that process. Look forward to seeing you soon.